Now, I don't know how many of you watched the video we did, what was it, like 3 months ago now or something like that? It was a video where we covered the allegations of a woman by the name of Katie Johnson. Now, Katie Johnson is an alias, but she told her story, I believe it was in like 2016, okay? She claimed that both Epstein and Trump raped her when she was 13 years old. And so in this video, her face is, basically censored, but she explains every single thing that happened to her in excruciating detail. So we covered that entire video. What's crazy is that, like, nobody really talks about that video. Like, it resurfaced relatively recently, which is why we covered it. And we were, basically going deep on that story. But I don't know, it's somehow people are not talking about it. I don't know if they fear legal ramifications or what have you. But what ended up happening is Katie Johnson dropped her case against Epstein and Trump. But the speculation was she was either threatened or she was paid off. Okay. And so, before the election, she wound up dropping the case and it was basically shelved and nobody talked about it. And Trump has a history of doing the catch and kill stuff with a bunch of stories about, all the sexual crimes he committed. So, but that was a big deal, right? And so we went back and covered that story, especially in the wake of all the new Epstein files where we learned that Trump was basically a co-conspirator with Jeffrey Epstein and did atrocious crimes. Well, now, guess what, y'all? We just got more validation for Katie Johnson's story. So the Daily Beast says the following. A new investigation has reportedly backed up evidence given by a woman who has accused Donald Trump of sexually abusing her when she was 13. The woman who accuses Trump of raping her when she was a child, 13, told the truth about, number one, her mom going to jail for embezzlement. Number two, her mom using naked photos of her as a child to pay off men. Number three, being trafficked by Epstein to Jimmy Atkins and being sexually abused by him. She also told the truth about being raped by Epstein because she was paid a settlement by the Epstein estate, and settlements don't happen if the victim is lying ever. She was deemed credible by the FBI in 2019, and she was in fact interviewed 4 times. We covered that on the show recently when we learned that. That's a big deal. They thought she was credible enough to interview her 4 separate times, okay? And we are supposed to believe that the literal only thing she lied about is Trump sexually abusing her when she was 13. Why the hell would she tell the documented truth about everything else and not about Trump? She's clearly telling the truth, and the FBI thought so too. So guys, this is a big deal. If they're able to corroborate all this other stuff that she said, is it really that much of a leap to say, hey, she was telling the truth about Trump and Epstein as well, telling the truth about the specific allegations that were made against Donald Trump? So not to get too disgusting, not to get too gross, not to get too traumatic in here, but the fact of the matter is the claims against Trump were atrocious. It involved physical abuse. It involved assaulting her, punching her. It involved cruelty. Apparently, he's very sadistic and he gets off on cruelty and violence. He had like this, I don't know, it was almost like a slave type fantasy over this immigrant girl who was there as well, another underage girl. And in this fantasy, he like had the immigrant girl pleasure him, and then he would yell at her and berate her and say, this one is going to show you how to do it, and bring in Katie Johnson, the 13-year-old white girl, to do it as well. Very clearly, he was like sort of high up in the Epstein group, right? Like he very clearly had some power. He very clearly was familiar with being in these rooms where it's quite literally like sex crimes, where it's like underage orgies. And she tells these just horrifying stories about how it was perpetual and routine abuse, right? And then look, when you learn that there's evidence that backs up the Katie Johnson story, even though at first when people heard Katie Johnson, they were like, oh, that seems kind of out there, really? Like 13-year-olds are being trafficked and they have these detailed stories of years and years and years of abuse. I can understand some people going, whoa, that seems like out there. That's kind of wild. But the fact that there's now evidence to back up her claims then leads you to believe, well, what about the Sasha Riley claims? Now, Sasha Riley, perhaps his claims go even further than Katie Johnson. The Sasha Riley claims go beyond just basically, rape and sexual assault and forced oral, and I guess that's rape as well. It's just a different kind of rape. But the Sasha Riley story also involves like the creation of snuff films, violence, like people pay to beat a 12-year-old's ass, like just fuck up a 12-year-old and punch them in the face repeatedly. And then some people sexually get off on that stuff. Snuff films in terms of people being murdered in the room right in front of Sasha Riley. Big names being accused. I mean, he references Andy Biggs. He references Trump. He references Epstein, of course. He says Clarence Thomas, although Clarence Thomas didn't do it to him, but he was at one of the events where this stuff would happen. He would be taken from farm to farm, and there would be all sorts of violent stuff going on and snuff films being made, and he was used in the creation of child porn. And, the ultimate story that he had was one of basically being graped by Trump, and he winds up grabbing a tent pole and basically like shoving it up Trump's ass and like kicking it in, right? And allegedly Trump had to go to the hospital over that. This is the Sasha Riley case. Now, the Sasha Riley case, I'll admit, we don't have yet the same kind of, factual grounding and basis for it like we now do for elements of the Katie Johnson story, where now, you could almost say, I mean, this is, she's coming correct and she's validating a lot of the other aspects of her story, so she's clearly credible, right? And the FBI thought she was credible. So there's a lot of evidence there. We don't have that evidence yet on the Sasha Riley front, but it certainly leads you to believe, if Katie Johnson was telling the truth, perhaps even these other claims, these even more extreme claims, are true. So what I want to tell all you guys to do right now, if you haven't done it yet, and I'll give you a warning in advance too, because it's hard to watch, okay? But go and watch type in Secular Talk Katie Johnson, or Secular Talk Katie Johnson Epstein maybe, into the YouTube search bar. Watch the segment that we did on Katie Johnson and her allegations against Trump. I literally play her whole thing and we react to it in real time. And like I said, if you're a little queasy, if you can't hear about stuff like that, then don't. But for those of you who want to know the depths of the depravity of Trump and Epstein, definitely watch that, because you'll get a sense now. And now to have this extra validation that what she was saying was true all along, man, that's incredibly eye-opening. Because, again, some of the claims were so out there that you're like, really? That shit happened? So it genuinely and sincerely looks like Trump frequented these basically like fredophile, grapist, almost conventions, these orgy conventions. They would commit the most heinous, atrocious crimes of all time. She also validates that, like, Trump's a germaphobe, and he generally likes to stay away from people. And as a general rule, he wants like oral or a hand job, and oftentimes he would like sit in the corner and watch others do stuff, and then afterwards would have like one or a couple of 13-year-olds pleasure him. Basically, like, again, I know nobody wants to hear this. I get that, but this is our president. He's a pedophile, war criminal, rapist, and every day we get a drip, drip, drip of truth that comes out that shows this beyond any doubt whatsoever. And everybody's acting like this is normal. This is not normal. This is not even close to normal. So let's remember what we know as a matter of fact when it comes to Trump and Epstein. Epstein is on tape saying he was Trump's best friend for a decade. He's on tape with Michael Wolff, the journalist, where he says that. And by the way, the mainstream media, as far as I know, has kept 1,000 miles away from that video, and they've never talked about it. Michael Wolff has it. He played it. Daily Beast ran it. Nobody's ever fucking talked about it. Okay? Insane. Apparently, Trump was on Epstein's plane at least 8 times that we know of, and he went to the island, including with, I think, Tiffany, one of his daughters. Okay? We learned that allegedly, the first time Melania and Trump had sex was on the Lolita Express, which is Epstein's fredophile plane. We knew that Epstein knew the inner workings of Trump's White House in the first term, and he was allegedly offered a job as well, which he turned down. And that was supposed to be Trump's attempt to keep Epstein quiet about all the dirt that he had on Trump. His way of trying to keep him quiet was, I'll give you a cushy job in the White House where you get paid a bunch of money to basically do nothing. Okay? We know, as a matter of fact, that Trump and Epstein shared a girlfriend. And he passed off a 20-year-old girl to Trump in 1993. We know this. We know about that creepy love letter that Trump wrote to Epstein on his birthday with that creepy drawing, the prepubescent girl drawing. Everybody saw that. Everybody was disturbed by that. We know that Epstein allegedly learned human trafficking from Trump's modeling agency. By the way, that was all in the 1990s, right? And a lot of these allegations, the Katie Johnson allegations, the Sasha Riley allegations, those go back to the 80s. So it's not like you don't go from zero to I run a human trafficking agency, a child trafficking agency like that in the 1990s. No, they started in the 80s, and then by the 90s, they had built up basically this human trafficking empire, okay? So this is what I don't think people really understand, the depths of the depravity here. I don't think they get it. I don't think many people even know the story, for example, that Trump hosted a private event at Mar-a-Lago with teen models, and it was only him and Jeffrey Epstein there, only 2 people. Have people heard the story of Michael Wolff saying that he personally saw a picture that Epstein had of Trump with underage girls bent over, and Trump's got a stain on his pants? Gee, I wonder what that stain was. It's insane to me that people have to come to this YouTube channel to hear me talk about this, whereas the rest of the media should be covering this, but they don't. I don't know why. I genuinely don't know why. I don't know what's going on here. They should be covering it, but they're not covering it. Meanwhile, we all saw the picture of Trump holding up a big check where he's buying a depreciated girl from Epstein. Remember that? Or Epstein, we knew that Epstein was leaking stuff to the media about Trump right before he died in the custody of Trump's federal government. Nothing suspicious there, right? We know, as a matter of fact, that in 2011, Trump spent hours at Epstein's house with one of the victims. That came out in an email. This is way before he had any political ambitions whatsoever, way before he ran in 2015, right? And so we know he was at Epstein's house with a victim for hours. Well, all those houses were bugged. This is why we say we know Mossad and Israel, we know they have dirt. We know they have blackmail on Trump. It's not a question anymore. It's a fact. Okay? So just absolutely crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. Then there's other stuff. The FBI intake forums, we don't even need to get to that. But the FBI intake forums have similar insane, allegations as well. But Katie Johnson, actually, she was 1994, I believe, was her allegation. But it just dark, disturbing, and now verified and validated. And so that should be a wake-up call, and this should be one of the biggest stories in the country. But it's not. And now we're in a war led by Israel, right? Netanyahu, Marco Rubio said they attack first. Netanyahu attacked first. Meanwhile, what I just tell you, Israel has blackmail on Trump. How do people not come to the conclusion that the president is a blackmailed pedophile who was pushed into a war because they said, if you don't do the war, some tapes are going to be released, right? Insane, man. Insane. So wild to see, but here we are. Here we are. It seems like a nightmare, but it's real life.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe.